Alright, what is up guys? My name is Brian and I work with artist name of Cloophie. So today's an exciting day because this is the first part of the ultimate lo-fi tutorial series for beginners. So to give it a little background on why I wanted to make this series, I started producing lo-fi about 2 or 3 years ago, and I feel like I've had reasonable success. I have listeners on Spotify, the channel is doing pretty well, you guys have noticed. I've been featured on a couple of big channels and playlists, but I feel like lo-fi itself as a genre has changed tremendously since I first started making music. And I just feel like it's really hard for beginners now to kind of just dive into this genre because the genre has expanded so much that you're not really sure of what direction to take. So coming back to the point, I wanted to make this series because I just kind of want to lay some foundation, some guidelines on what you guys can look for when you're making music, when you're first getting started especially. And maybe you guys can use that guideline and then, work on it, develop it even further to create your own style in the future. Because I honestly feel like if you follow these steps and then keep working with it, you'll create something magical. Even me, right? I feel, and the reason I'm saying this is because, literally look at me, right? Like, I'm not in a studio, I'm just in my room pretty much. I have like the minimal setup. I'm not a full-time producer, this is not my job. I just like doing it and I like having fun. And I like sharing what I create with you guys, and I feel like I've come pretty far considering. Yeah, that's why I say I feel like it's really doable for you guys as well. And I just feel like all you guys need is some basic guidelines and a sense of direction on how to approach this genre. So yeah, that's pretty much why I wanted to make this series. And before we get started, I would really appreciate if you guys subscribe to the channel. It really does help me a lot. Like I said, I'm not a full-time producer, so it really does give me the motivation to keep creating content like this for you guys. And also, just gives me extra motivation to keep staying in this music area, right? But yeah, okay, let's actually get into it. The thing we're going to be covering today is pretty much building the base of your song. Obviously, there's a lot of different ways to creating a lo-fi song, or just any song in general. But the way I do it is I pretty much have the very basic pattern. So that's going to be either with the piano or guitar. I have that and then I build on top of it. And I feel like this is what separates a lot of beginners and some intermediate, people, because I'm going to make a simple beat for you guys, and this is just a test to see if you guys are making stuff like this. So if this sounds familiar to you guys, I'm not saying you're doing anything bad, but I want you guys to do a little more, because I feel like a lot of times beginners just kind of think a lo-fi song is chords and a simple drum pattern and that's it. And I feel like I get you guys, because lo-fi, when an outsider hears it, it's really simple. It sounds really simple. That's why you're able to listen to it while you're studying and stuff, because it doesn't take too much distraction for you guys. But what you don't understand is that it really takes a lot, and it's a lot of layering, a lot of pads, other sounds that are just stacked on top of each other to create a very warm and comfortable vibe, versus this is like, can you study to this? I don't really think so. Now that we talked about what's bad, let's talk about what you can actually do to improve, right? So first things first, chances are if you're a beginner, you're probably using a piano, because guitar plugins are just, they're hard. It's really hard to get a cheap guitar plugin because of how dependent it is on realistic sounds. Pianos are just hammers, so it's really easy to create the sounds on a plugin, whereas guitars, if you're looking for a good guitar plugin, it's probably going to cost like $100 minimum. So I would stick to piano, and in the piano you have electric pianos and then you have grand piano, or like the normal keyboard pianos that you guys are probably familiar with. For beginners, I would highly recommend the electric piano because it's really easy to work with and it's naturally warm, so you don't have to worry about blending in sounds with the grand piano, because I feel like grand pianos are a little bit trickier when it comes to blending in sounds. Electric piano if you are a beginner. And then for now, obviously there's a whole bunch of chord progressions. For now, I just want you guys to think about this one specifically, okay? I just want you guys to think about this one. And the reason I say this is there's only so many notes on a chord. That came out wrong. There's only so many notes on the keyboard. and there's only so many patterns of chord progressions that work. That's why you hear songs and a lot of times they sound similar because they have the same chord progression. I feel like chord progression isn't the most important thing, and if you have this one, you can make a lot with this. And the reason I'm saying focus on this one is so that you start working on this, develop your style, and then once you know the other parts, once you get the other parts of production down, then you can go back to the other chord progressions and then do the same thing, right? Because you're going to be doing the same things in the production process. It's just changing out the tools, right? So once you get the other parts down, then I want you guys to go back to the chord progression and change it up. But for now, just stick with this one. We have this. And what I do is I always add in these notes. So if you want to screenshot or something, do it right now. And then, just copy it in later. And then I pretty much always use these notes. And if I want to change the key, then I can just drag it up. Or drag it down. Right? That way, I don't really have to worry about the music theory. Keeping it simple for you guys and for myself, because that's how I've learned. So now that we have the chord progression, the next thing I want you guys to think about is, how do I make this more interesting? So obviously it's lo-fi, you want to keep it simple, right? But this, like anyone can do this. And remember what I was talking about with the first pattern being the bass for pretty much your entire song. So you don't want this playing out throughout the entire song. This is not memorable. This is where you have to start figuring out, what can I do to make this more interesting? So the easiest thing, obviously, is to add in more notes. Now, what notes do you add in? Just keep it in the same notes as in the chords. So for this one, it's going to be B, D sharp 4, and F sharp 4, right? Just use those. So I'm going to add in another B, another F. Let me just work through this real quick. Already I feel like it sounds a lot more fuller than before, right? Because before it was like... So yeah, I feel personally, again, but I feel like it's a lot more full. And you guys are probably wondering, how do you know what notes to add in, right? I just guessed. It's like taking a test. You just go through it and then pick whatever you feel like. It's really not that hard, because chances are it's probably gonna work out. And if it doesn't, and if it sounds a little weird, try different ones. But you only have 3 notes, so like there's not really much. So we beefed up the chords a little bit, right? Now what you want to do is stagger them. And what I mean by staggering is just move them around. Yeah, just move them around. Try to find a rhythm, right? Because you want your pattern to also have a rhythm. Don't just depend on the drums. Have your melodies carry a sense of rhythm. You guys noticed that once I started this pattern of the da 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 da, I kept it throughout the entire pattern. That's because you want to keep it uniform, right? You don't want a new thing, like let's say I did this. Like it sounds off. So I try to keep it uniform so that your song has a sense of a direction, right? It doesn't just sound like somebody's just mashing keyboards. I would say reverb is your best friend as a beginner. It's just a really easy tool to give you that extra oomph so that you can create that ambience. So now it sounds like... Now I know this doesn't seem like a lot, but I promise when we get to the future parts of this series, it's really gonna make a big difference. Maybe I can just show you guys a little preview of what I'm thinking right now. Remember what I said, reverb being your best friend? compare this to the first beat that I showed you like 5 or 10 minutes ago, right? It's already really different. Having this pattern set is going to make a huge difference for you guys later on when you're creating. All right, so we covered the melody as the base, and then let's just talk briefly about sounds and sound selection, because I'll go more into this later, but you guys can start doing this now, and that is looking for sounds that you like. Now, what I recommend is light and airy sounds, because those are going to be very easy to blend in and layer on top of each other. Because if you have like saw, synthy, like wah, it's going to be very hard to blend into your otherwise chill beat. So you want to look for this light and airy sounds to make sure you're able to blend it in and layer it. So for examples, I use this one from Flex. You can also use Music Box. Pretty much like bells. A lot of bells work. A cool bell that I also like in the GMS is Midnight 2. So that one sounds like this. Oh wait, sorry. That one sounds like this. Something like that, right? Yeah, I think those are very cool sounds. If you have other plugins, go and look and see if you can find the sounds that I'm talking about, the light and airy ones. If you also want and don't mind spending a little money on monthly subscriptions, Splice has a lot of cool sounds that I think are very suitable for lo-fi. So check those out as well. But yeah, okay, now I'm actually done for today. That's pretty much it. So we covered today how to create that first beginning bass of your song, right? So this is going to be played throughout the entire song pretty much. That's how I do it. Disagree with me if you want, but that's my style. So yeah, spice it up from your original chords, make it a little more interesting. Remember, I said rhythm is very important. So keep the same sense of rhythm so that it actually sounds like you know what you're doing. And then I guess homework for you guys would also be to look for those sounds that I'm talking about and think about, is this going to blend in well? But yeah, that's pretty much it for today. So like I said before, I'm really excited to do this with you guys. Let me know in the comments if this was helpful for now, if you have any suggestions, and that's it pretty much. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please make sure you do so. It really does help me a lot, like I said before, and I will see you guys all next week. So peace.